Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. I have a presentation on global economic challenges and Turkey. I hope you find it useful. I'll go through a number of slides, and towards the end, I'll be happy to entertain questions. So, it will be a two-way traffic here. So that's my outline. Global macro challenges and how Turkey is positioned. We have a program that is aimed at reducing vulnerabilities, building resilience, but also putting Turkey back on a high growth trajectory. And finally, how do we leverage Turkey's regional position in the current climate? We are at the VUCA moment for the world. VUCA is an acronym used by United States Army. It stands for volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. I guess the last, couple of weeks have provided much of this. Just look at the Global Economic Policy Uncertainty Index. It is almost at peak. This actually is as of, it doesn't reflect the March volatility, it doesn't reflect March uncertainty. Chances are it's higher. There is actually a volatility index, and that's also peaked recently. What is driving this? It's largely trade protectionism, which has become something of a new normal. If you look at the number of trade restrictions, in particular post-global financial crisis, it has gone up by almost 11-folds. And this does not yet reflect the recent restrictions, the recent tariffs. This is as of end of 2024. If the current state of affairs prevail, chances are global growth will be significantly lower than what it has been or relative to the base case scenario. There's a study by the IMF which foresees a 7% decline in global GDP on the back of this trade fragmentation. Now, 7% is a big number. It is as big as Germany and France GDP combined. So these are big numbers. Why? Why trade wars? Why all these protectionist tendencies? It's really simple. European Union, United States, Japan, all these major industrial countries or regions, they've lost a lot of ground in global manufacturing. As you can see here, China has gained. Obviously, everyone has lost. China now dominates global manufacturing. China also is now the main trading partner of almost everyone around the world. Look at this chart. China versus United States or China versus EU. Compared to a quarter century ago, now most countries have China as their main trading partners. So that's really what is driving it. How about Turkey? How vulnerable is Turkey to trade protectionism? We believe that we're going to be relatively more resilient. So let me make the case for it. First of all, if you look at exports of goods and services as a percent of GDP and compare that with per capita GDP, as you can see here, we are relatively not, compared to other countries, our dependency on exports in terms of maintaining our growth, prosperity, compared to many other countries, it's lower. meaning exports is not the main driver of Turkish economy. In fact, historically, net exports have been a drag on growth rather than being a driver of growth. Looking at the other way around, this chart here, again, if you look at final consumption and investments, meaning domestic demand, relative to per capita GDP, as you can see, is the main driver of Turkish economy. So that's really what drives growth. And therefore, Turkey is less exposed to a more inward-looking world. That doesn't mean you don't get affected. It just means, relatively speaking, you get affected less. So that's the summary. Another point is that we are better positioned to navigate protectionism. Why? Well, first of all, we are mainly focused on our immediate neighborhoods, where we have strong geographic, cultural, historic links, as well as rule-based trade frameworks. Look at this chart here. 62% of Turkey's exports go to countries that we have free trade agreements. So unless they walk away from these agreements, our trade, 62% of our trade, exports, is rule-based. And I don't see that happening because one of the main trading partners, of course, is European Union, and the European Union continues to advocate rule-based multilateralism. Therefore, the risk there is relatively low for the foreseeable future. And other countries are predominantly, again, in the immediate neighborhood. So, as you can see, almost 62% of our exports are relatively insulated against the risk of fragmentation. Again, at a time of global fragmentation, you tend to look at antidotes, fixes. And those fixes usually come in the form of regional integration. As they say, you rise with your neighborhood, you fall, you decline with your neighborhood. That's why we are at Diplomasi Forum. That's why Turkey genuinely wants a stable, peaceful, and prospering neighborhood. Why? Well, because it's in our interest. We would benefit most because we are a big exporter of services, whether it is tourism, whether it's medical tourism, whether it is education. So we are better positioned in the region. We are the region's main manufacturing base. There you go. So that's why Turkey is now investing in enhancing connectivity within the region. Connectivity matters. So Turkey is part of Middle Corridor, linking China to Europe. Turkey now is helping build another corridor called New Development Road, all the way from Iraqi port to, again, Turkey, connecting it all the way to London and to Beijing. Because these are some of the most effective, most cost-effective linkages. So we will continue to invest in connectivity, in peace, in security, and in prosperity of the region because we would benefit most. Another major global problem is rising global indebtedness. Raised tariffs, we can't watch, yeah? So we would have to be careful in balancing things out. But there are no winners of trade wars. Everybody would be a loser. That's why we prefer open and free trade. The reality is, we'll see how things pan out, but we're working on all scenarios, and we will act accordingly. Well, thank you very much. I hope we answered most questions.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, the Minister of Treasury and Finance of the Republic of Turkey, Mr. Mehmet Şimşek, for sharing your insights with us and the comprehensive outlook on Turkish economy. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. And with that, the session comes to an end. Thank you very much for attending.